let's talk about prescription drugs this morning. If I asked you before the break, can you name the industrialized country which spends more on prescription drugs than any country in the world? Many of you got that correct. The answer correct. If you answered the United States of America, you, my friends, get some pineapple-covered pizza, which is not really pizza, but David assures me it does taste good. So new report out this morning from the U.S. The U.S. is the drug industry's gold mine. Gold mine. Look at all of these costs of drugs here on your screen here. So Americans are paying pharmaceutical companies more for the world's 20 blockbuster drugs than the rest of the world combined, according to an analysis of company filings by Public Citizen. So just look at some of the drugs where we pay, like compared to the international, okay? Humira. I don't even know what Humira is. Does anyone in our chat, anyone know what Humira is? I see television commercials for it all the time.
Yeah, I do too. And I thought it was like depression or something. I'm going to look.
Humira, $16 billion in the United States. Now look at international. I'm talking the entire rest of the world.
Arthritis.
Arthritis. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, arthritis is an inflammation. Do you know how you get inflammation? Eating crappy food.
Eating crap. Yep.
That's why we have inflammation. That's why we have such an arthritis epidemic in the United States. Can you imagine if we would actually have a healthy food supply in the United States?
I had a really good friend.
Crinkled up fingers, and like my mom, she eats pretty healthy now, but I don't know. I don't know what she's eating. But she did have she has arthritis in one of her fingers, and it bends over.
I had a friend who was a cancer colon surgeon, and this guy told me that 99% of diseases are between here, and I got my hand down around my waist, between here and here. So basically in your gut is where all of this stuff starts. Inflammation, almost any disease we deal with in this country, it's all in your gut. And he's like, that's why it's so important that you eat well. And we don't have anything, like if you want to mandate something, they should mandate healthy food. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like they don't care about that because it's good money to keep us sick.
Right. You're never going to see a broccoli commercial, right? No. Where's the
sugar?
broccoli?
You see sugar.
You see sugar. You see the corn syrup lobby is strong, right? The fact that ketchup in the United States has been classified as a vegetable because of the corn syrup lobby. Yeah. So that we can, that's America. Can we demand better? I mean, this country, what in the hell is happening there? And so, yes, all this inflammation that we have in the United States comes from food, right? Comes from our crappy food supply that's run by all of these, filled with all kinds of chemicals and preservatives and everything else. Because all of these big companies, like the corn syrup lobby and others, send so much money to Congress. That's how it happens. And then how do we fight it? With drugs, prescription drugs. And then we pay through the nose for these prescription drugs. So Humira, anti-inflammation, by the way, it's kind of amazing when you see people transform their lives. When they stop eating that kind of food, the arthritis starts going away within weeks. It's kind of amazing. But we still need to eat those processed cheese balls from Walmart, so we don't. That's why we continue to have all this terrible arthritis. Anyway, Humira, $16 billion compared with the rest of the world. Its revenue for the United States is 81%. Look at that. U.S. revenue as a share of the total. So no wonder. This is a gold mine for Humira, the company.
And are these U.S.-based companies as well, just out of curiosity?
I think most of them. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to look at all of the separate filings. I think most of them are. Keytruda. I don't know what Keytruda is. $8 billion in the United States. I haven't even heard of some of this stuff. Some of the stuff I see television commercials for. That should even tell you more about this problem we have in the United States, that they have television commercials to tell you to go and recommend this to your doctor. Ask your doctor about Eliquis. Are you having trouble peeing? Tell your doctor today. Do you have restless leg syndrome? Tell your doctor today. I remember when restless leg syndrome suddenly was a thing. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I got in trouble, actually. I was on the air in Philadelphia, And I just remember, I was like kind of joking about it. I'm like, this is America. And I know, because I'm sure there were people that were watching. They're like, Clayton, I had restless leg syndrome. I'm so glad they finally labeled it something and created a drug for it. Like, okay, you got me. But I remember when it wasn't even a thing. And then they just like suddenly, this company decides, they inadvertently figured out that this drug helped like prickly leg syndrome, but they were trying to make a drug for something else. So they like inadvertently discovered that this drug like helped with restless leg syndrome. And so they started marketing that. But I remember on the air in Philadelphia saying, isn't it kind of ridiculous that this suddenly just pops up one day? Like now there's this thing called restless leg syndrome. Like, okay, it's now it's a thing and we got to have drugs to cover it, right? I got some emails who are like, I have restless leg syndrome. It's like, okay, I'm sure you do. Sure you
Is
do.
it restless right now, or you sitting down like it?
Right. Hey, here's how you fix your restless leg syndrome. Go for a walk. Stop eating crappy food. I'm going to get more hate mail, but that's all right.
You know what I hate? I hate when my leg falls asleep during the day, because then I know it's going to be up all night.
That happens with my third leg, if you know what I mean. Stretching helps a lot, Lisa says, yes. Eat bananas.
Yes.
Wicked
bananas.
Insanity says my hips are arthritic too. Still no doctor though. Still no drugs. Still no drugs though. See, there we go. Katie will go says I have restless leg syndrome. It's a real thing. I hope you never have it. Another one. Elizabeth says I have restless leg. It's awful. All right. See, I knew it.
You know what I have? I have restless brain syndrome. Like when I lay down to go to sleep, my brain is just like,
yeah. Look, I'm sure it exists. All I'm saying is like, I'm not discounting it. All I was saying was I remember when it didn't exist. And then suddenly one day, because of a drug company, it now exists. That's my point. Not that you have it, and I'm sure it's painful and it's annoying. And look, I actually have some bad circulation issues in my legs as well. I had a dislocated knee a number of years ago. I had to have surgery on some veins in my knee. So I get it. I get some pains in the side of my leg. So I understand. I'm not making fun or anything like that. What I am making fun of is the drug companies and how suddenly out of the blue, there's all this marketing around this new thing that no one even was talking about a week ago. You know what I mean? Like, do you have restless thumb syndrome where your thumb is constantly doing this? Yeah, I'm constantly doing that to people. Maybe I need a drug for this. Clayton is always so cheerful. He's always giving people the thumbs up. No, it's a syndrome.
yeah,
It's
all you
happy
need is
thumb syndrome.
a good muscle relaxant, and that thing's going to just lay right down.
Yeah. Oh. Thanks to Eliquis, my thumb doesn't stand up anymore. Thanks, Eliquis.
And neither do I.
You consult your doctor. It may cause internal bleeding. May cause even death. I love that as part of the descriptions, though. In rare cases, it'll cause death. Okay. Sign me up for that. Anyway, my point is the prescription drug companies, okay? And so look at this crap. Eliquis, $8 billion compared to $6 billion. Imbruvica, $6 billion.
And this is gross or this profit?
These are profits. Yeah. These are profits, net profits.
Jeez.
Americans are paying pharmaceutical companies more for the world's 20 blockbuster drugs than the rest of the world combined. Why it matters? The U.S. pharmaceutical industry's gold mine, and the analysis shows just how much the industry has at stake as it fights the Democrats' plan to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices and let employers piggyback off of those new lower drug prices. That's right. The U.S. alone represented 64% of that total, $1.1 billion in revenue.
No, 101 billion.
Oh, sorry, 101 billion, yeah.
I'd be curious to know what, like, if you go to the top drug up there, the one that did the most, like, what the CEO of that company makes per year.
Let's see if you can find that.
Humira.
I don't know what company that is off the top of my head.
It's Adalimumab, something like that. But let me go and see here if I can find.
John Venturini, that is funny. Very funny. Says the Fonz had restless thumb syndrome. Hey. I have to give you props for that one.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's good.
Teresa Monroe says Dana Carvey has a great stand-up special about 10 Ultra. which is not a real drug. It's on Netflix. I love Dana Carvey. Restless Stupid People Syndrome, Belinda says. Kate Wilgo says, I love drugs. Hippie Soul says, I did step aerobics for years. Maybe that's why I got arthritis in my hips. Could be. I know women who do a lot of running, because women's hips, like women are more prone to having like arthritic hip issues from running and stuff. So,
it looks like I'm finding here that Abby V. Hands, the CEO, made $21 million and a hefty bonus, even as executive pay scrutiny mounts. So $21 million, and got bonuses of 20. So Gonzalez pocketed $21.27 million in 2018. Nearly 20% of that, or $3.9 million, came from a performance-based cash incentive award. And $3.9 million was smaller than the $4.3 million Gonzalez snared for 2017, but it's still 58% more than his target award, which itself is 1.5 times his base salary.
Jeez. Grim says, don't forget Cosmo Kramer had to deal with a restless leg syndrome situation. It's true. Kramer. This is an amazing piece of this, right? Between the lines, Americans don't consume more drugs than other countries. It simply boils down to higher prices. So we're not like Americans aren't taking more drugs than the rest of the world. We're just paying like 10 times more for those drugs. FYI. And, and that's why, Kirsten Sinema can, make money from these big drug companies, because she doesn't want them to have to pay less or lose any of this revenue.
Well, and understand it's the whole medical industry, like from drugs all the way to care and everything, because like I was looking into, and I'm not going to get the exact prices, but like a bag of saline. So when you go into the hospital, sometimes you get a bag of saline to hydrate you or whatever. Those bags of saline in other countries are like $8 or something like that. They're like $800 to $1,000 in the United States. So our whole entire system is completely messed up with the prices that we pay for everything. And it's like, if you go in and you say you're a cash patient, sometimes you actually can negotiate those prices down. But if you're on insurance, they charge the max because they're in bed with each other. The hospitals know that they're going to make a bunch of money off the insurance companies, and they can charge these outrageous prices for this stuff. So from drugs to everything, this whole medical system that we are in is completely a sham.
Yeah. And right now, we should be clear, Medicare is prohibited from setting drug prices. They can't do it. And employers have no leverage right now in lowering commercial prices. Like, this is America. It's just highway robbery. America spends more on hospital and physician care than drugs. But drug companies often have the highest profit margins. And you don't want to lose this money. Many companies profit off of the flow of drugs, but pharmaceutical companies retain a vast majority of the money. And so under these provisions, under what Bernie Sanders wants to accomplish and allowing Medicare to like negotiate lower prescription drugs, it's still a hackneyed process. Like what other countries have to deal with is way easier, way better. Medicare's still private companies. And so now it would give them this bulk prescription drug pricing negotiation power. And Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, they don't want to allow that happen. They say it's capitalism. And you see these other Republicans that are like, no, this is America. It's capitalism. These companies should be allowed to just basically charge people as much money as possible for drugs. Okay. Like that's literally their argument, that we are a capitalist society.
And that's been my argument for like against the minimum wage. Like I don't think that we should have a minimum wage in this country, but I do believe that we should have like, a company like that should be able to say, you can claim 25% profit or something like that. Like it has to be tied to a percentage that would stop them from being so focused on profit, because they are solely focused on profit. Everything else be damned. People be damned. Like they don't care about the well-being of people. They sit there and they make these drugs, but it's so that they can get the patents fast and first, so that they make the most money. That's all they care about. So you have to find a way to take away that incentive. And that would be by limiting their profits to a certain percentage that they can take, and then the rest either has to go to the workers or go back into something. But like you have to set these maxes or these limits, otherwise this is never going to get fixed.
They'll argue, of course, you hear the arguments from Republicans. Well, we would never have this research and development if they weren't allowed to make this kind of money.
Right. You have citizens
ridiculous.
doing this kind of research and stuff, like volunteering, like
Right.
It would still get done.
Of course it would.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you mean to tell me instead of making 100 billion, you'd only make 60 billion? Really? And then you would just throw in the towel. You'd be like, there's just not enough money in it for us. Like 60 billion. Okay.
And think about this. Think about if you had a certain amount of profits and then you could put money back into actually figuring out how to, okay, so we're making these profits. We could make a little bit more if we did work and found out what actually does help people. Like if you actually wanted to help people, you could put so much money into research and development on what really will help. It's like with the current stuff, like if more research was done on that and how it could actually, I hate that I can't even say words. I'm in my head, like, okay, don't say this word. Don't say this word. But the bottom line is if they cared more about people and actually didn't have to worry about the bottom line, we would see a completely different situation.
Yeah, you can't say certain words anymore because
I know
YouTube will just knock you down, man. Don't even try it. Don't even do it.
Nope, that's a shame.
Can't even do it.
Can't even say medical terms.
You know, the story that I brought you multiple times here on the show is about how all these companies, they've been taking money from the federal government. And ideally, the argument from the Fed, Jerome Powell and others, is that we provide the liquidity for these companies so that they can put this money towards research and development, right? And it gives back. It gives back to society because they're building products, they're building prescription drugs, they're helping, but they're not. What they're doing is they're buying their own stocks back, right?
Well,
and they're giving
think about this.
big corporate bailouts or big golden parachutes for their CEOs.
And think about this. The American people, our tax dollars during the pandemic when we weren't getting anything. Our money helped fund the research. Our money helped fund the development. And then guess who gets to take advantage of the patent that they got out of us helping them get it? And then now the government is paying for these for us. And so they've made money, taken our money 3 times out of this whole equation. And, and now we're going to have to start paying for it.
Yeah, I'm sure they sent you money though, right? I mean,
no, not a dime.
Yeah. So you paid them 3 times. You've paid them 3 times basically. So for their research and development on the drugs, for the tax breaks and tax incentives, and for the intellectual property as well. So,
right. And so they make these billions that you just showed. They're making these billions off of this pandemic that we helped them. Like they didn't even have to spend any of those billions for the research and development. They didn't have to spend those billions on anything other than their shareholders. That was like free and clear money.
And if you read the contract, which I have, it's an amazing contract, the Pfizer contract with the U.S. government. It's amazing because it basically, the Moderna, whatever one, I forget which one I read, but they're the exact same, by the way, but it got leaked. And so you realize, holy crap, the U.S. government gave away the farm in this contract. Like, if you were going into business with somebody, like if I was going into business with you and I were going to build something together and we came up with a contract, it would be much more equitable, like 50-50, right? No. The U.S. contract from the U.S. government basically got shafted. They get 0 out of the deal, and the big drug company got like 100%. Literally, even the contract was like, hey, we will take all of your money, and it's possible we will never make any kind of a drug, but you have no recourse. We will take all of your money. That's literally what the contract said.
Right, and when you say that the government made 0, that means us. We made 0. And we didn't get to have an attorney look over that contract to see if it was in our best interest. We can't say, well, you know what? We'll let you do that, but let me take it to our attorney, to the people's attorney. There's nobody representing us. So they can just give our money away. And they don't care that it's like the Federal Reserve. They're loaning our money out at 0% interest to these people, and with maybe we'll get it back, maybe we won't, or whatever. But it's like there's nobody representing us to make the decisions to say that's a bad contract. We don't get anything out of this. We're giving it's literally like all of us are sitting there at a table and we're like, okay, we're going to give you all this money for research and development because there's a pandemic. But you know what? When you get the profits, a percentage of it has to come back to the people.
Yeah. Oh, but mean you don't have a government lawyer that they've provided to you?
No, none of us do. Oh, but wait a minute. What was that where Biden was like they can just get a lawyer? Was that for evictions?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You can
Like
just get a
like we all just have lawyers sitting around.
Yeah, you could just hire a lawyer for $5,000 for a
Yeah.
retainer. Because everyone
Yeah.
has that just in their back pocket. They can just hire a lawyer like that.
But they sit here and they negotiate with our money all the time with these drug companies, with all these people that are making billions in profits. But we never have our own attorney at the table. Like the Congress is supposed to be our attorney, but they don't do anything for us.
Nothing makes sense.
Exactly, Judge. Exactly, Judge. You're the only one that's been speaking honestly around here, Judge.
You calling me a liar?
Oh, man. So that's the prescription drug story. Unbelievable. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. You can also become a channel member by going to morninginvest.com/join, where you can stick it to the mainstream media and support independent journalism. We're able to bring you the stories that you won't see on any of the major billionaire-backed networks. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time, everyone.